Well, welcome to another session. I hope you are well. I'd like to do something today that is slightly different to what I would normally do, which is, generally speaking, just go through a monologue for a few minutes. And um, I'd like to change up the the presentation slightly. And I came across very fascinating um, information pertaining to divorce. And if you can imagine that over the last few sessions, we've been talking about how to ensure you have a successful relationship and the importance of preparing, the importance of training properly, learning, uh, to ensure the success that you want in your relationships. Now, if there is divorce in a relationship, divorce is an indication that the original intent or the original objectives for that relationships or for all relationships involved in a divorce proceeding perhaps fell short of the original aspirations. Now, whether you call that failure or whether you just call it falling short is entirely up to you. The point being, when two people come together and say, we want to be married, the idea is not that they will get a divorce in the future. The idea is that we believe that we can make this successful. So, one of the best ways of knowing how to be successful in your relationships is to reverse engineer or use what I call the process of inversion by studying divorce information and trying to reverse engineer to make sure the mistakes that other people make are not yours to make. Now, this information has come from a fascinating legal firm specializes in divorce proceedings in the United States. The data is not too dissimilar from that of the United Kingdom. Now, in the United States, the source of the data which have been provided is the CDC, the census, and a few other sources, but the CDC is the main source. In the United Kingdom, the source is the Office of National Statistics, ONS. Now let's look at the information from the United States, and this will be a short session, but it's just perhaps to share some information, and we'll build on the information in the sessions to follow. Now let me share something titled, How Often Divorce Takes Place in the United States. Let's begin with the following. The data is based on year 2019. It says this information was recalculated based on the newly released divorce figures from the CDC for the year 2019. The true figures are likely high, as the release only includes data from 44 reporting states. So the data we're looking at comes from 44 states and not all of the states. In any case, number one, perhaps I shouldn't even number it. Every 42 seconds, there is one divorce in America. This equates to 86 divorces per hour, or 2,046 divorces per day, 14,364 divorces per week, 746,971 divorces per year. Striking. Every 16 seconds, there is a marriage in the United States. That equates to 230 marriages per hour, 38,762 marriages per week, and 2,015,603 per year. A lot of information, but let's consolidate the divorce and the marriage information. There are nearly 3 divorces in the time it takes for a couple to recite their wedding vows, which is 2 minutes usually. Your wedding vows, 2 minutes. So, in the time it takes to recite your wedding vow, in other words, for every one marriage, there are 3 divorces take place. that do take place in the same period. This is fascinating. It says more than 172 divorces occur during your typical romantic comedy movie, which is about 2 hours, taking a laugh, having a piss. But that's not the important information. Let me get to what I think is the hard hitting. Over a 40-year period, 67% of first marriages terminate. Amongst all Americans 18 years of age or older, whether they have been married or not, 25% have gone through a marital split. Now, this is all people combined. And this is where it gets really sad, truly sad. 19.15% of adult women in the United States are divorced or separated today, compared with less than 1% in 1920. So in the year 1920, there was only 1% of women in the whole country that was divorced. Today, or as of the 2019 information, that number is 19.15. So technically it's gone up by 20x. That's how much it has gone up. 20 times. The average first marriage that ends in divorce lasts about 8 years. Now in the UK, that number is 7. But it's also trending lower. As of 2 years ago, that number was, I think, 7.2, but it's trending lower. Some more information. The median duration for first marriages that end in divorce for males is 7.8 years. For females, 7.9 years. So roughly 8 years, give or take, or you might say 7 years and 10 months. The median duration for second marriages is somehow similar, but that isn't important. Now, this is a key part of the conversation. Who is getting divorced, when, and why? The average age for couples going through their first divorce is 30 years. 60% of all divorces involve individuals aged 25 to 39. This is truly, truly sad. Wives are the ones who most often file for divorces, at 66% on average. Now, it does say that figure has soared to nearly 75% in some years. Now remember, this data is 2019. I have seen some other information that suggests that 75% filing by women has gone up to 80%. Now in the UK, that number is 70% as of 2023, 70%, partly because in April last year, about a year ago, we had the no-fault divorce approved. Prior to that, there were some obstacles. Women hailed that as a breakthrough. I beg to differ. So if you want to get divorced today, you just fill an application form, and you can even watch the application process proceed. It's like tracking a parcel that you have ordered. It takes months, sometimes weeks, and the process is done and dusted. There are no mediations or mediation steps to ensure that the possibility of reconciliation are considered. In any case, this is interesting. So let me reiterate. In the United States, about 80% of the divorces are filed by women. In the UK, about 70% of the divorces are filed by women. It goes to say 5 professions with the highest divorce rates in the US. And I thought this is quite interesting. So listen up, boys. If you're playing a numbers game and you're looking for ways to maximize your success rates and minimize failure, this is interesting. Ladies, if you're hoping to maximize your success rate and minimize your failure rate, this is also very important. It helps you choose the good careers and avoid the bad ones. And for men, it makes you aware of the professions that women come with that increase the likelihood of divorce. Again, 80% in the United States are filed by women. In the UK, 70%. So the proponents of those filing divorces are women. Now, I have found that of the 20% left in the United States, in half of those cases, the woman instructs the man to file for several reasons. One is to do with finances. The other has to do with a status thing, so that she can claim more as part of the proceedings. That applies in the UK. Now, if half of 20 have actually come from men, then it means 90% of the filings are either filed or instigated by the woman, 10% by the man in the United States. In the United Kingdom, half of the 30% that are filed by men have been proceedings that the woman has actually demanded from the man, irrespective of who wants to leave. The man has been forced to submit the application, not by his free will. So therefore, 15% of the divorces in the UK, we can say, are done by the men, and 85% or thereabouts are done by the women. So the majority of the filings are by women. And therefore, as a man, if you want to maximize the possibility of success, then you have to choose women within certain professions and avoid women with certain professions. And if you are a woman, you have to ensure you don't choose professions that increase the likelihood that you will file for divorce. In any case, here are 5 professions in the United States. Dancers, 43%. Bartenders, 38.4%. Massage therapists, 38.2%. Gaming cage workers, 34.6%. Gaming service workers, 31.3%. Fascinating. 5 professions with the highest divorce rate. Now, of the top 3, those are professions that women dominate. Dancers, whether you're strippers. When we say dancers, we're talking about mainly strippers, but it goes as far as all the dancers, whether that be Latin dances or bachata, merengue, kizomba, salsa, ballroom dance. Women primarily make up such professions. In the UK, we have dancing on ice and strictly come dancing and all the other variations. I always find it fascinating. Whenever there is a season, it's not unusual that at the end of the season, the couples who never knew each other before, who came together to dance as a team, the individual couples, sometimes both, sometimes one, end up splitting with their long-term partners, husbands, wives, once they get back to the normal world. Why? Because they've been exposed to dancing and it's connected them with another inner part of them that they perhaps thought never existed. And I guess once you taste of the fruit, you never go back. Anyway, the 5 professions with the lowest divorce rates: farmers. So ladies, there you go. Get yourself a farmer of a husband, because he's always playing with the sheep and playing with the cows and playing with the various animals he's producing. In this case, I'm assuming he's a specific type of farmer. But when he comes back after playing with the sheep and playing with cows, he sees you and he thinks you're really, really hot and you're the best thing since sliced bread. You know, he smells and he thinks, she smells beautiful. You know, all those cows stink. So, you want success? Get a farmer. Clergies are high on the list. Agricultural engineers are high on the list. But in any case, let me share a few others so you can see. In terms of those with the lowest likelihood of divorce, optometrists, clergies, podiatrists, farmers, dentists, legislators, and other scientists, medical scientists, mechanical engineers, doctors and surgeons. Very interesting. And as I mentioned before, the ones that have the highest: dancers, bartenders, massage therapists, those who work in cages like the UFC girls, or the UFC fighters, those who work in food and tobacco machine operation, telephone operators, those of you who are dating women who do all those sexy calls, hey, nurses, entertainers. Anyway, fascinating information. But here is something that is also very striking. Before I bring today's session to a close, it says, for instance, the groups with the most prolific experience of marriages ending in divorce are downscale adults. In other words, adults making less than $20,000. Poverty, there's a strong correlation between wealth and poverty and the presence or the absence of divorce. It does say, amongst the population segments with the lowest likelihood of having been divorced subsequent to marriage are Catholics, 28%, evangelicals, 26%, upscale adults, adults making more than £75,000 annually, 22%, Asians, 20%, and those who deem themselves to be conservative on social and political matters, 28%. You know, we are all entitled to our own opinions. We are not entitled to our own facts. This fact, the data, is fascinating. So, you want to have a likelihood of successful relationships? Here is a clue. Find yourself a lovely Catholic lady or man, or someone who is an evangelical, someone who makes more than £75,000. In the UK, that would be roughly about £60,000+. Find yourself a lovely Asian man or a lovely Asian woman. Or find someone who's conservative on social issues and political matters. And you increase the likelihood of success. Now, this is where I will stop for today. There is so much more in this data that I would like to study it in more detail. I haven't had the opportunity to look at the data from the United Kingdom, but I can tell you that from my previous reviews, they're very similar to the United States and similar to Canada. Now, what is the conclusion of today's session? And something to go away with. Decisions decide your success. Decisions decide your wealth. The decisions you make will decide your happiness, and therefore it is important to become aware of how to make the right decisions. Now, for those who believe in numbers and recognize that numbers have an integrity built within them, they are agnostic. Numbers don't care about your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. Facts are somewhat rigid because they have a requirement to have integrity within themselves. They don't really care. They are neither good or bad. They just are. One of the best things you can do is simply say, if I want to be a successful person within the area of relationships, I want to be married and I want to stay married, what are the possible things I can do to ensure that I have a successful relationship? Now, let me answer that from the information provided by this law firm. Oh God, this is so fascinating. Give me an extra 2 minutes. It says, when people divorce, the average length of a marriage that ends in divorce is 8 years. Now, I covered that before. January is considered the divorce month. People start looking for information before their new year starts, but they can't do much until the attorney, the lawyers, the attorneys are back in the office. January 12 to 16 seems to be the magic week for filings. Wow. If you've gone through Christmas, you just realize, I can't stand this and I cannot do this for one more year. So you start researching. The courts are closed. The solicitors are on holiday. As soon as they come back, boom. But this is perhaps the concluding part of today's session. The question is, why are people divorcing in the United States? Now, you can extrapolate this to the entire Western world, the modern West. Lack of commitment is the most common reason given by divorcing couples, according to the recent national survey. Here are the reasons given and their percentages. This is big. Lack of commitment, 73%. Argue too much, 56%. Infidelity, 55%. Married too young, 46%. Unrealistic expectations, 45%. Lack of equality in the relationship, 44%. Lack of preparation for marriage, 41%. Domestic violence and abuse, 25%. Now, if you invert that, what it says is that the whole thing we hear about domestic violence and abuse, that is the least reason why people actually get a divorce. What is not included? Here is the fact that with the no-fault divorce, a lot of this data comes from the periods in the United States prior to the introduction of the no-fault divorce. Now, President Reagan did a disservice by getting that passed. In the UK, last year, we had the same thing. If you were to look at the reasons in the UK, you're more likely going to get a more realistic reason, because we've only had 1 year of no-fault divorce. The data from the United States is skewed because most people over the past 25, 30 years never had to include the reason. Irreconcilable differences was good enough. You didn't have to state why. Same as the UK prior to April last year, you didn't have to state why. Now you can just say, I don't want to be married. Now, the reason I concluded with that is that I think it's important that we understand that success has to be a plan. It has to be designed. It has to be a strategy. Then it has to be hard work. Being married and being happy is not supposed to be flamboyant and sexy. It's meant to be boring, tiresome, but it's meant to be an obligation, a responsibility, a duty, a commitment, and something that you do beyond yourself. If you're not ready and if you're not prepared, you will fail. Secondly, if you don't understand what the other party wants and what their needs are, you will fail, despite how hard you work. If you don't understand how to negotiate and how to communicate and how to choose battles between both parties where there is a reward, then you would effectively you will hurt the other person so often that eventually the scars and the stab wounds will cause them to bleed to death, leading to their exit in the relationship. The point of the matter is that two people, when we come together with an aura, an emotion that surrounds both parties, the butterflies and the love and the feelings, and that fades. Now, my favorite book says that by wisdom a house is built. Through understanding, it is established. And through knowledge, its rooms are filled with beautiful treasures. The same thing applies with success in relationships. It takes wisdom, it takes good judgment, it takes understanding, it takes knowledge. Because the way you feel will change. And you have to know how not to act based on feelings always. Sometimes you have to travel down or travel up from your heart to your head and operate from your head, from logic. And sometimes you have to travel from your head down to your heart and let go of logic and recognize and connect with people's feelings. It's not easy. It is hard work, H-A-R-D. It is also heart work, H-E-A-R-T. How you achieve that is entirely up to you, but I think in the sessions that follow, and I do like this format of sharing ideas and looking at things, and rather than just talking from my memory, just so I don't make mistakes. But I do enjoy this, and I think as the sessions move forward, my intention will be to combine the teaching with data and share the data in real time so that people can participate and challenge the information. Now, I will leave in the description a link to this information, and I hope you have a look.